So you now have an awesome set of characters. You've built them yourself. You selected them from the menu, whichever one it is. Let's start animating these. So let's go back into Beyond here and let's animate these characters. So let's take two characters. Let's take our child and let's take the character which we created. So different animations apply to different characters, particularly children and adults. So let's go through these. Anytime that you want to animate an adult or a child, you hit this button up here, action. This is where essentially it is what it says. We can add action to these guys. So once again, like in everything, like in the Fiverr platform, like in the template selection, and like when we're choosing an animation, we've got categories and we have search. So what this does here, this video content, these actions you've already used in your animation. So let's say that you want to show a walk cycle repeatedly and you don't want to search for that specific one each time. You can put them in your, in your quick access. So let me break down the difference between these. In this video, that means it's already been used in the video, and quick access means these are ones that I say, look, I use these all the time, let's have these ready to go. So to do that, I simply go into one of my actions on my main section. I can say, okay, I'll click those little three dots there, add to quick action, and next thing you know, it's there in my quick action, ready to go. So when it comes to animating the characters, there's a few types of animation. I'll primarily break it down into walking and non-walking. So let's say that we want to make a character walk. We could obviously choose that from our options here, but for the sake of this, I'll search and I'll say walk, and let's say we want an angry stomp. Okay, so the way that walking works is we have the walk animation on there just by hitting that action. So when I hit preview, which is our way to preview the animation, you'll see the characters walking, right? But in reality, if we want a character to be walking, we want them to be moving. So that's where motion paths come in. So if we click on our character and we hit motion path, we get to choose which direction we want. Now, these are all very complex. I very rarely use these. You want to go with line. And the direction of the line doesn't actually matter because you can manipulate it. But in this case, we want him to walk from right to left. So I've applied a walking animation, but currently he's walking on the spot. Now, because I've added that line motion graphic animation, he's now going to move from right to left of the screen while doing that walk. It's automatically going to be set to something called auto fit, which means if this scene in this case is 3 seconds long, the walk's going to last 3 seconds, but you'll get a feel for how long the walk should be, and it depends based on the walk cycle. Most of the time, if you're looking at, making someone walk from the beginning of the screen to the end of the screen, it's going to be around the 10-second mark. So you'll get a feel for it with time, but I'm going to say custom, and with this type of walk, I'd probably say it's 4 seconds. Obviously, if you're dealing with some sort of a slower walk, like a pensioner on a frame, I did one of those for the FT. That becomes like 40 seconds because there's, for them to get from one side to the screen to the other, it's going to take more time. Now, the thing with walk cycles is obviously put the exclamation mark there, meaning that my scene is not long enough for the walk to continue. That's actually absolutely fine because what we can do is we can say, right, I want him to be walking from right to left, but I don't have to show him getting to the end destination. If I do want to show the character reaching that end destination, I say, okay, let me extend the scene here until that yellow triangle goes. And what I want to do is I either want to do it just before it goes. Notice what I'm doing on the timeline down here. I either want to do it just before it goes or just after. And I'll explain why in a minute. So if we hit preview again, you'll see the difference. So now you can see that nice smooth animation of the character walking from right to left. Now, if you do it as in the duration's too long, so let's say 20 seconds, and you can see what happens to the animation of the walking. So see how he's walking so much slower, but the paces in that walking animation requires a quicker speed. So let's put it up to 1 second and see what that does. So now suddenly the character's walking too quick. It almost looks like he's on skates. So there's that perfect balance with each walk animation where each foot leads to the next foot and motion at the same time. It's a bit of an art to master, but trial and error, testing different run times, and using that rough principle that around 10 seconds should do the job. Okay, so let's say that we extend the scene beyond the walk time. So let's put the walk time as 4 seconds and let's extend the scene. And you did just kind of see what happens there. So what we've said to the animation software is we want you to be doing this walk cycle and we want him to be moving from here to here for 4 seconds. Once that 4 seconds is up, that walk cycle continues as long as the scene goes on. And essentially all we have happening there is once again, like we did before, we have the character just moving on the spot. So, like I say, the reason that I do it so that it's just on the point exactly is if I want to then add a new scene, not only is the character in this new scene exactly where he should be based on the previous walk cycle, but also there's been no walking on the spot. There is no too quick walking. He's finished his cycle and now he moves on. Um, what I did there, and I've realised that this hasn't been pointed out, so I want to be very clear with this. If you want to add a new scene, okay, you can choose a template as discussed, or you can add a blank scene. Now, there's something here, and this is sort of to do with the right clicking, but I will cover it here briefly. Continuing the scene. So wherever the scene leaves off, that continues scene, see what it did. So it takes where the last frame was and makes you continue. The big reason that you want to do that is because in Beyond, you can't do two animations on one asset within a scene. So let's say that I want this character within the scene to walk and then celebrate. I can't, if the minute that I put the celebration animation onto him during this scene, it replaces the walk cycle. It doesn't take two. So it's a bit of a limitation, but we can work with it. It's a walk cycle, so we have him 4 seconds, nice smooth walking as discussed. Until that point, we can hit continue scene. He's now in the correct placement and he can celebrate. So if you want to see that in real time, so the character walks, now he stops, nice. Cool. So that's walk cycles. It's exactly the same for the child. When it comes to the actual animation, we kind of just covered it there. It's very simple. So let's say that we go categories this time. Now there's two types of these animations. You can either have a static one, where for example it will be adding an asset, which technically is an animation. And let me remove this motion path here. It will be a static one, or it will be an animated one. Okay, or it will be an animated one where the character is actually going to move. So with the static ones, if you hit your microscope, you can see what the character will look like. And with the animated ones, if you hit that play button, you can see also what it looks like. So you can just hit it or hit apply, whatever works. And then when you hit preview, you can see what that looks like in play. Now, something to be aware of is, let's say that we cut the scene. Beyond, if we cut it during this animation, midway through this dance, unlike the walk cycle, Beyond won't tell us off for that. It will allow us to do that, but it will cut off the animation. That's animating characters. The difference that I want to show in the child's animation is that there's a different array of animations. So notice my categories on the adults animations, much broader categories. We can do more things, a bit like adults can. And then in the kids' case, it's more obviously child-related things, sports in the classroom, art and music. So you won't always be able to map over an animation that you can do for an adult that you can do for a child because children don't normally work on construction sites. Okay, that's animating characters.